Good morning. Today we look at chapters 7, 8, and 9 in the book of Genesis as we are getting underway in the Old Testament. And yesterday, God had told Noah, just this early in the Bible, 6 chapters into the Bible, that God had told Noah to build an ark. And so chapter 7, God says to Noah, go into the ark. And he says, you and all your household, for I have seen that you alone are righteous before me in this generation. Of all of the people on earth, Noah was the only one that God saw righteous before him. And I think about that. I mean, what kind of percentage of the people of the earth today would God say that he finds righteous before him? Just an interesting thing to think about. And, we sing, Noah, the animals came 2 by 2, and most of the animals did come 2 by 2. But verse 2, God says, take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals. So there was a differentiation between clean animals and unclean animals, which we know, due to the dietary laws and stuff that we can read in Exodus and Leviticus. But 7 pairs of all clean animals, a male and its mate, a pair of the animals that are not clean, a male and its mate. And part of it was that, that there would be, Noah and his sons and all the animals. Think of all the food that they needed for this time that they were on the earth. They were on almost a year. We'll get into that. But so it was, 7 pairs of clean animals and just 1 pair of the unclean. 7 pair of the birds of the air to keep their kind alive. And then he says, for in 7 days. So he gave 7 days for all of these animals to come. And Noah didn't have to go out and capture all of these animals. God caused the animals to come. And, so in 7 days I will send rain on the earth for 40 days, 40 nights. And every living thing that I have made I will blot from the face of the earth. Just, terrible to think of. What must Noah have thought, to hear God's displeasure and with all of humankind, and because of humankind, the birds, the fish, the fish, they could live in the water, excuse me, but the birds, all the animals would perish because of the sinfulness of humans. Verse 6, Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came. And remember, Noah was 500 years old when he had his sons, so the sons are, less than 100 years old roughly. But they all go into the ark. And on verse 10, after 7 days, the waters of the flood came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, the 2nd month, on the 17th day, very specific, that this is written out, according to Moses' age. It says the heavens were opened and the rain fell, and all of them entered the ark. And in verse 16, all of those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut them in. Verse 16, the Lord shut them in. It wasn't Noah that closed this great big door on there, but it was the Lord. And so, you think about how many people must have come running to try to get into the ark. But Noah had no control over them because God had shut the door. And the flood continued, it says, for 40 days the waters increased and bore up the ark. And, it kind of reads, the rains came down and the waters from in the earth, came up and flooded to the mountains. It says covering them 15 cubits deep. And, we talk about, the floods that we have and how roads get washed out and the waters come up, and, some of the, like when there's hurricanes and typhoons and different things, and some of the cities along the coast with the flooding that they have, and springtime floods, in our area, and, they pale in comparison to this picture that we get in Genesis. Verse 21 of chapter 7, all flesh that died that moved on the earth. Birds, domestic animals, wild animals, and just to think about that. You know, every living being, it says, that had breath in its nostrils died. Only Noah was left and those with him. And the waters swelled for 150 days. You know, half a year that the earth was completely covered with this water. And then chapter 8 begins, but God remembered Noah and all these wild animals. And he caused this wind to blow, and the waters began to dry up. And the rains, you know, I mean, there's 150 days later, and, you know, with all of the rain for 40 days and 40 nights, you know, maybe, here it says, you know, the waters gradually receded. The fountains of the deep and the windows of the heaven were closed. So sounds like, you know, waters had come up from the earth and down from the heavens as the earth was flooded. And at the end of the 150 days, the water began to abate. And in the 7th month, the 17th day, the ark came to rest on the Mount Ararat. So think about it, 7 months and 17 days, you know, that Noah and all of these animals and his family had been in the ark. You know, that, you know, it's tremendous time they had been there. It says the waters continued to abate till the 10th month. And at the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had made, and he sent out a raven. And then he sent a dove to see if the waters had come. But the dove came back, and he sent another dove, you know, and later the dove came back with a freshly plucked olive leaf. And then the third time that he sent the dove didn't come back. And so it says, verse 13, the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, when, you know, this was how old Noah was now. So it was, you know, it began to rain when he was 600. So the first year, first month, first day of the month, the waters were dried up. And Noah then removed the covering, looked out, and saw that the face of the earth was drying. But still, they remained in the ark. The 2nd month, on the 27th day, the earth was dry, and God said to Noah, go back out onto the earth. So, you know, tremendous length of time. You know, it wasn't just the 40 days and 40 nights of the floods, but over a year that they were in the ark. And then God says, you know, go out, you and your family, be fruitful, multiply. Same thing that, you know, the instructions he'd given basically to Adam and Eve. Go forth, you and your sons and your wives. Bring out with you every living thing. Be fruitful and multiply on the earth. You know, that's verse 17 of chapter 8. And every animal and every living and every creeping thing and every bird that went out of the ark. And Noah built an ark and made an offering to God of some of the clean animals. Some of the animals that he had taken onto the ark with him were then given as an offering. And God promised that he would never again curse the ground because of humankind. Chapter 9, he blesses Noah and his sons, be fruitful and multiply. And then verse 2, the fear and dread of you shall rest on every animal of the earth. And so the animals are wild. The animals are afraid. They have this fear and dread of humankind. And we've domesticated many animals. You know, you think of dogs and cats and horses and sheep and goats and cows. And, you know, there are a lot of domesticated animals. But yet there's this innate fear and dread. There is, you know, there's this little animosity always there. And no matter what, with, you know, with all of the animals that way. And it talks about, you know, verse 6, whoever sheds the blood of a human, by a human shall that person's blood be shed, you know, and, you know, thou shalt not kill, basically, and kind of that eye for an eye type deal in there. And God then promises Noah he'll never flood the earth again, and this is, you know, coming up in these next verses is where we have the sign of the rainbow, as God's promise that he will never again flood the earth. Verse 8:16, when the bow is in the clouds, I will see it, and I will remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of flesh that's on the earth. So it's not only between God and humankind, but between God and every living flesh. All the animals, everything, you know, they are promised by God that there will never be another great flood. And then starting in verse 18, Noah was a man of the soil. They went out to the ark of his family, and Noah planted an orchard, and it says he became drunk of some wine, and it says that Ham, his youngest son, saw him naked as he was laying there drunk, uncovered in his tent. But because of that, Canaan, Ham's son, it says, is the one that gets cursed. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that that it comes that way, and but that's the way the Bible is written here for us, and so then so this Canaan, this son of Ham, is this we hear of Canaan as the Israelites are being led out of captivity, and is this land named after this Canaan? We'll find out, I suppose, but. It was just, it's surprising to me that here, so early on again, somebody has found disfavor with God, and he is, verse 25, cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves he shall be to his brothers. What a terrible punishment that is. And then at the end of chapter 9, Noah passes away. He dies at 950 years old. And again, it's just the longevity of people early on in creation is just amazing to me. But we do find out later that, God kind of puts a limit on our ages as well. May he bless you, no matter what your age. We all know that God's love is for us and forever because of the gift, Jesus Christ, we just celebrated.